Hey everyone, welcome back to Breakthrough Innovation, where we uncover what it really takes to lead change, create value, and build what's next. I'm JL Heather, one of the two founders of Centered, a firm that helps organizations navigate complexity, spark creativity, and unlock the full potential of their teams through innovation coaching and strategy. Today's guest brings bold thinking and disruptive strategy to one of the most competitive industries out there, staffing. We're joined by Bill Kasko, President and CEO of Frontline Source Group. For more than 2 decades, Bill has pushed past industry norms, launching innovations like a 5-year placement warranty in a market where 90 days is standard. He pioneered the trademarked people, process, service methodology, built niche recruiting verticals in overlooked markets like grocery retail, and led his team through economic shifts that would have wiped out lesser firms. With a deep understanding of workforce dynamics, honed over 17 years contributing to the Dallas Federal Reserve's Beige Book, Bill's insights go way beyond HR. He's here to share how staying one step ahead, sometimes by doing the opposite of what everyone expects, can help leaders innovate in any industry. Bill, I think the staffing conversation today may be more important than ever, so I'm really excited to dive in. Welcome to Breakthrough Innovation.
Well, I appreciate it very much. It's funny. I started laughing when you talked about doing the opposite of everybody else, and there's a funny story behind that. Because I'm a big Seinfeld fan, and it actually came from the George Costanza, the Costanza Theory. We had it on our wall for many many years that just because everybody else does something, you don't have to do it the same way. And if you're not familiar
Absolutely.
with that episode, the quick recap is that George is in the restaurant and it's an attractive woman, and Jerry's like, go up and say hi, and he's like, why would she ever talk to me? And he said, if the opposite works, then it should work for you. And so he goes over and says, hi, and my name is George. I'm unemployed. I live with my parents. I'm 40 years old and I'm balding. And she kicks back the seat and says, have a seat. And so that theory is something that I truly started the company based on that theory. And it has really grown 21 years later that we still live by that idea and that principle that there's so many different ways to do things, and what you do in business and the way that you build or create or grow or get over those challenges as you go down this path. There always are options for you. So it was funny that you brought that up. I love it.
Well, anyone who's not a Seinfeld fan should be. I think we can all agree on that. I do love that idea of what if the opposite were true kind of thing, like doing the opposite. One of our favorite questions to ask people when we're kind of going down this innovation path is, what if the opposite were true? What would happen? Like, what would it be like? It's amazing how that can kind of open up additional possibilities. So I love that you kind of do that instinctively. And I think maybe the best example from our conversation and from what I've read is your 5-year placement warranty. It sounds like that kind of was very counterintuitive compared to what was happening and maybe what still happens in the placement industry. And I'm curious, what made you decide to take that kind of risk?
Yeah.
And maybe more
Yeah.
importantly, behind the scenes, what did it take to make it work?
So that really goes back to the Costanza theory in so many ways. But the funny part, and sometimes it's embarrassing when I tell the story and I look back and I think about it, but it all goes back to our youngest daughter. We were buying her first car. And I want to preface, it was a used vehicle. It was not some brand new car. It was a Lexus. I'm not, and that's where I get embarrassed when I bring that up, but it was my daughter too. So, but we're in there and I'm doing the paperwork stuff, the financing. And the lady says, hey, it also comes with a 5-year warranty. And my daughter looked at me and said, oh, that's kind of like what you guys do, Dad. And I started laughing. I go, absolutely not. Why would we ever? There is no way in hell that we are ever going to do that. And then she gave me that look that if you have a daughter, you all know it's that look. And I went, oh, maybe we should think about it. And so I went back to our team and we discussed it. And my team thought they were worried. And so we had been planning like a getaway for the management team to get away and do, just strategy planning and things. And so we went to the Bellagio. We rented out a room for the entire day. We locked ourselves in the room and said, we're not coming out of here until we figure this out, because the whole 90-day, which is an industry kind of norm, or it used to be, we didn't like. And even when I started the company, we did it different. We did it like more of a prorated type of a deal, because I didn't feel like we don't work for free. And I felt like our industry was a commodity and it was treated like that. And we had to be different. How are we as a company going to stand out and be different? Because we were never going to have a brand name like a Starbucks. We were never going to be Tiffany. We had to really differentiate in a way. So locked us in this room, had a big whiteboard, and there were, I don't know, 13 of us or some 12, 13 of us. And I said, okay, here's the whiteboard, here's a marker, here's an eraser. Let's run through every scenario. Let's try to figure out how do we do this. And at the end of, I don't know, at least 6 good solid hours in there, we came up with the framework behind it, and we left with an idea of what we were going to do. And then it took us another 2 to 3 months to run scenarios. And when anyone who's in a sales environment understands what I'm talking about. You have to run through the scenario of how is someone going to exploit what you're going to run out. And so we ran that through all these different scenarios, and it actually was a win-win. And at the end of the day, we came up with a way to make it work in our environment, for our company, for our people who understood that you took greed out of it and you made it a win-win, not just for us, but also for our client. And so we came up with an incredible way to roll this out. And then we rolled it out. And that's when we knew we were onto something because the hate mail started. And in the moment that it became a topic on LinkedIn with people who I had no idea who they were, sending me the most ridiculous comments about what I was doing and this was crazy and this was insane and who do you think you are and it's a failure and why would you do that? And I just kept saying, "You're right. We don't know what we're talking about. Thanks." And I would literally chalk that one up as here's another one. This is the reason we're doing it. This is the reason. And so then what was interesting is that the client, so our client, they're employers, and so companies and businesses hiring. Every time we would present this to an employer who had been working with other agencies, it was almost like we were like this used car salesperson, right?
Yeah.
And I say that, and I have a lot of respect for used car salespeople, by the way. In my opinion, if you're a used car salesperson, you are highly educated on not one vehicle, but a plethora of vehicles. And they get a bad rap because somebody goes in and they do something quick and it's bait and switch and they're out and they're gone, right? And our industry is known for that. So when we would present this to clients to say, I understand what you're saying, but our 5-year deal, it doesn't cost you any extra. It's a lot better than the 90 days. They would go, what's the catch? And we would say, there isn't a catch. There is absolutely no catch. It's a long-term partnership play. Nothing else. There's no extra cost. No, we
There's got to
don't
be
think it's a good.
something.
No. And so we spent the first 2 to 3 years just trying to educate people that we're recruiters first, and then actually we're horrible at sales. In fact, our entire industry they're pathetic when it comes to doing sales because we don't understand options and we don't understand how to present and help people in different scenarios, right? And so we have spent, and I guess now we've had this, boy, we're going on 12 years, maybe 14 years that we've done this to the point now where people are like, oh, I've heard about this. How does it work? Well, it really came into play during COVID. It really came into play because when COVID hit, all of these companies, everybody let people go. They had to lay them off. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work with when there's a layoff and even a guarantee, a 90-day deal. It never comes into play. That's pretty normal. But we had so many companies and clients coming back going, "Hey, remember that 5-year warranty thing?" And we're like, "Yeah, you didn't want it." And they're like, "Oh." And then we said, "But you know what? We're in good faith. Here's what we're gonna do because we've all been through this, and here's what we can do. And if you had had it, this is what it would have done for you. So we're gonna honor it. Let's get another agreement. Let's make it right, and let's go forward."
Love
And
that.
so it ended up being something where companies said, we have a hard time putting our arms around it. And I said, well, the reason you do is that you're so focused on people not being successful. So one of the things we started was stats and information to show, to prove up that this warranty that we have isn't about somebody failing. It's about someone actually being promoted. And our whole structure was to say, do the opposite. So again, going back to Costanza, companies in our industry sell on a negative. They sell on failure. And our company was built around success. And so our warranty is built around the fact that we know that 98% of our people we place get promoted in the first year. We have the stats, we do it every quarter, we know what it is. And so it allows a company to then come back to us and go, hey, that John that you placed, we just promoted him and we need to replace him. Not a problem. Here you go. And so we just turned it around. We changed the mindset of not selling on a negative, not selling on failure, but selling on success, and then doing that over and over, rinse and repeat, as we like to say.
Have you ever read the book, The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek?
I got to be honest, I've read half of it. I have not read the whole thing. That's a failure in my part that I cannot seem to fix somehow. That I start reading and then I seem to skip to the end and I miss out parts in between. But yeah, I've read parts. Yeah.
Well, the important part is, like, I just love the concept of the goal of business is not necessarily to, like, beat the other people, to exploit the resources, all these things. The goal of the business is to keep going, like, to keep playing the game. And I love the way you're talking about this. You intuitively get that. Like, you're not there to exploit people for money. You're there to help people succeed because that's what's best for everyone involved, and that's what keeps the game going. And I'm always constantly amazed that more companies don't get that. But maybe the thing I like most about what you're saying is so many times people look at innovation as the product or whatever, right? For you, innovation was the contract. For you, innovation was the people that you were helping. And I think it's just really good. And we do this a lot on this show is to emphasize the fact that innovation is everything. It's how you solve problems. It's how you address your customers. It's how you sell your products. It's what those products are. So I love that viewpoint. I'm curious, as we are getting close to the end here, I can't not ask this question. AI is such a big thing in the hiring world right now. And it's such like I hear so much about how people struggle to get past AI tools to actually get an interview and all this other stuff. What are you seeing and like what's going on with AI in the hiring process that others might be missing?
So I'll give you a couple different scenarios here, which this one I love in particular because I'm old, right? And so I bring this up only because growing up, I remember the day that my father brought home to the family our first microwave, right? And this microwave, it took like a dolly to get it in the door. It was just massively huge. And I think about it today and I think it wouldn't even fit in our kitchen. And this thing was so big, and he put it in the kitchen, and we got it all set up, and like the whole family, all of us are standing around to watch this thing work. And my dad says, guys, this is going to eliminate the need for chefs and cooks and restaurants in the years to come. And then I want to flash forward, like, I don't, God, 45 years. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, the microwave is now smaller. Denny's and IHOP now have like 12 of them, maybe in the back that are going, but they still have people that cook. Okay. That's AI. It's no different. And so that is going way back. Go forward more. A fax machine. That was going to change everything and it wasn't going to be the same. And resumes, you weren't going to have to do that. Well, that happened about the time with emails. And geez, then that didn't change. And then Facebook. Facebook was going to eliminate recruiters and getting a new career. Oh, that was gone. It's not happening like that. It's adapting. And so just like we have to do in business to adapt the change, we have to try to stay a step ahead. LinkedIn is honestly one of those tools, softwares, platforms, if you want to think about it from a technology side, that 20 years ago when it was around and really just starting in its infancy, there wasn't even a discussion that that was going to put anybody out of business. It was the networking side of things. In fact, there were conversations when Facebook came out that we wouldn't have to have LinkedIn. And yet today, it's so integral in the way that all recruiting and things that take place. What is sad is that the human connection and the human communication piece is eliminated more and more as we embrace the technology. And that's actually going to be the most important part as we go forward. And you look at people when they say, I can't get through this, I can't do this, or AI is taking this out. How do I know if it's AI or it's human? I got another news flash. Who cares? It doesn't make a difference, right? This isn't new. This is nothing brand new. This is a matter of how do your skills meet the need of a company? And are you doing things differently today than you did yesterday? So that individual who is looking to make a career change, by the way, everybody's not on LinkedIn. For some reason, people think that every single person is on there. They're not, right? In fact, there was a study recently that showed the number that are fake that are even on there. That's going to happen. And so that interaction with true people and a recruiter and what we do in HR departments and having a conversation on the phone, I will say AI recruiters are getting creepy, amazingly real sounding. We have one and her name is Joy. Joy is incredible. In fact, I listened to a call the other day where someone asked Joy a question, a very interactive question, and she immediately responded, and it was amazing, her answer. I even said to someone, I don't know that I could have done that. I mean, it was like dead on perfect, right? But at the end of the day, the AI piece of it is just another tool. It's just another tool in our advancement as human beings. We have to embrace it. We have to learn how to live with it. We have to figure out functionally, just like the microwave, what is it going to do for us? It doesn't scare me. What scares me is that technology is changing quicker than we can embrace it. We used to have 18 to 36 months. Something new would roll out. You'd figure out what are we going to do with it. We got 18 to 36 minutes. I mean, I'm kind of blown
Yeah.
away that I get an email and it's like, oh, check out this new tool, what it's going to do. And you're like, geez, are you kidding? It. You get to do the demo. And by the time you do the demo, they're like, oh, we're rolling out version 4. And you go, wow, I don't even, and then you're afraid you've got too many things going on. So we're just in a really unusual, weird time. And once we figure out how to really embrace and enjoy it, I think it'll calm down. But from a business standpoint, every day it's just squirrel every day. There's something new and you want to try to stay ahead, but you got to figure out what works for you, for your business. And then for the individuals looking to make career changes, this is going to sound ridiculous, but go back to the basics.
Yeah.
Go back.
Connect with
The
people.
basics don't change at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think that could be a whole episode all on its own, just talking about HR with AI. There we go. I can get my letters right. Because I do think it's such a big topic right now. I wish we could dig in more. That said, to wrap up, if you could leave our listeners with one question to challenge their own industry assumptions, similar to what you did with the 5-year warranty, what would the question be? What would it be?
Yeah, and that's actually really easy because it just I mean, it's one word and it's options. And options is to me one of the things that I think a lot of people forget about. And it doesn't matter. It's very similar to my people process service. You don't realize how it's integral in your life. That from a business standpoint, presenting options to your client is so important. Our industry, it's pretty cut and dry. It's you want to hire him as a contractor, or you want to hire him directly. That's it. And how do you want to pay me? Once or you want to pay me in a lot of payments? And instead, we came up with options, the 5-year warranty, different ways to do searches, different options for these HR departments. They need to scale, they go up and down. And then the same thing for people looking for work. You need options. You need to think about things differently, not just one way. And if those of us who lived through COVID look back, and I mean, obviously, COVID is horrible when you think about it. You've got individuals that were in college, getting out of college that had to make a transition and they went into, work from home environment. And now companies are calling them back and they're like, I can't go into an office. And you're like, dude, you got to have options. You got to think about this different. And then for companies, they have to look at it different. A lot of companies saying, this is the way it is. We're not going to change. I used to be that guy. I used to be the one that said, we have to be in the office every day. This is what it is. And then you realize I got to change. I got to move with this stuff. That goes back to my microwave. If I didn't embrace the microwave back then, it would be taking me 30 minutes to cook my lunch when I only have 10 minutes between calls. You have to look at things different, and the word options, it's just it's to me, it's like a beautiful word that plays into every day of what we do.
Absolutely. I love it. Bill, thank you so much for the time and the insights. It's been really great talking to you. If people want to connect with you, collaborate with you, what's the best way for them to get into contact?
Yeah, our website, it's just the name of our company. So frontlinesourcegroup.com. We didn't make it difficult for you to make it simple and easy. The other best thing, just go to LinkedIn. Follow us on our LinkedIn page. Again, just Frontline Source Group. I think it's just Frontline Source Group, to be honest. But on LinkedIn, follow us there. Feel free to connect with me as well. More than happy to point you in the right direction and see what we can do to help out. And you never know.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. For everyone else who made it all the way to the end with us, thank you as well. We greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a quick 5-star rating. And maybe in the comments, let us know, how are you struggling with HR and AI, and what are your observations there? We'd love to hear from you because it is such a big topic. And then last but not least, if you know anyone who's in the staffing world that might need some support, who would like to talk about a 5-year warranty in staffing, pass on this episode, introduce them to Bill, and kind of share the wealth. Bill, thank you again. This has been absolutely
Appreciate it.
fantastic. For everyone else, thank you as well. And we'll see you next time on Breakthrough Innovation.